Well, I'm really honored that they asked me to come again this year. I've been here in the past years, but I think it's so important to share my history because my history is your history. This is the history of Montgomery County, the state of Maryland, as well as the United States of America. And so it's really important to share that history because my folks are dying out. The history is dying with them. They've got a library up here. And if we don't capture that, it will die with them. It will not get passed on.
I was a graduate student at Duke and getting my PhD in history, and Montgomery County served as my training ground. I did a lot of research here in African American history, working with the Maryland Historical Trust, Sugarloaf Regional Trails, and we were funded by other organizations here in Montgomery County, like Montgomery County Council for the Humanities, NAACP, and so forth. So we came, finished my work, and we documented over 13 historical communities in upper western Montgomery County, over 180 houses, I think, and 100 family photographs. So it's just wonderful to be back here.
I think it's very important because, a lot of the history in the black communities being lost, people have been putting it, storing it because it's in mother's things and, it's sentimental value to them.
I mean, right now, I have them stored in my house. I had them at one time stored in a safe deposit box, and that didn't work out very well. So I've got all these documents stored in my house, and they're not stored appropriately. I mean, I don't have the acid-free paper and all those kinds of things that my friend at Smithsonian used. And so we could really learn something from how they package and preserve the historical documents.
The need to get it out there, just beyond your family and let other people know what it's like or what it was like growing up, what it was like, how their lifestyles, how they came about. It's a history that's being lost and it really needs to be preserved. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do.
I was fortunate enough to have relatives that pass that information on to me, and I've been doing the same thing, passing on to my grandchildren and the rest of my relatives that are still alive. I just keep passing on, because I think that no one can tell my story as well as I can.
Funding is limited, and if we can find someone that's willing to come and help, archive on a larger scale, we can do it locally. But to do it on a larger scale, we need much more help. And there's many sources out there that we can reach out to, but we'd like for those sources to also reach out to us.
And I think that's extremely important. Just have a central location, a secured central location where people can come and view these documents and learn more about the contribution that African Americans have made to Montgomery County as well as the state of Maryland.
Carter Woodson, the prominent African-American historian who really established Black History Month, first Black History Week, then became Black History Month, said, if you don't tell them, they won't know. And Martin Luther King said, if he who controls my mind controls my body, he who controls my history controls my mind. That's why history is so important, and especially African American history. There's been if you look at the books on Montgomery County or Maryland history, there's such a dearth of materials about African American history. So it's initiatives like this that are so important, and we find ways to interweave the African American history into the history of Montgomery County.